Hey everybody, got the mittens on. I picked up these mittens in September when I was in North Shore of Lake Superior. I thought these are gonna come in handy. You know, gloves are nice, they're cool, but gotta have mittens when you need to stay warm. So heck, it's cold. We had a lot of snow. A lot of snow here. And all the snow that's on my pants will not melt, it's that cold. With the wind chill, it's below zero. That's why I'm where I am. I'm at, anybody know? This is kind of classic western Wisconsin terrain. It's a little bit like maybe Wisconsin Dells a little bit. A lot of places look like this around La Crosse. I think it's because they call it I don't want to speak beyond my competence in geology, but they call this area the Driftless region, right? Because it's where the glaciers didn't drift. So there's a lot of kind of sandstone formations and kind of old rock that a glacier would have just flattened probably, but didn't because it didn't drift. If I'm way off on that, let me know. I'd like to know the truth, but I think that's why these kind of old valleys around La Crosse, they call them coulees, are because the glaciers didn't get them, didn't flatten them. So anyway, I thought this was beautiful, and the key for me is that that big sandstone bluff there is to my west, and the wind is coming in at 17 miles per hour from the west with 30-mile-an-hour gusts, and wind chill is -3. So anyway, but I feel good. I feel good now. I love all this snow though, huh? See? Just, yeah. Okay, I can't make snowballs with it though, like in the past couple weeks. Hey, what should we talk about? A couple things. Got a lot of stuff. I wanna wish Alice Wagner a happy 90th birthday. I got to go to her birthday party in Wausau. It's my good buddy's mom, and I spent a ton of time at their house after schools I don't know when we started going over to Wagner's house after school, but really a great place to be. I don't know if you have any childhood memories that are real happy, good friends, places to go. Maybe it was your house people went, but we'd go there. I'd say, I don't know, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. And we continued to go there, but I mean, these happy memories, we'd go when our bodies were a little smaller. They had this kind of fort made out of paneling and plywood and stuff in their basement, and they had BB guns, or at least one, and they'd set up army men on this blackboard about 15, 20 feet away from our fort, and we'd shoot these with BBs inside, you know, and then they had this magnet, and we go around and pick up all the BBs that we fired. It's just like a little kid's paradise, you know. And Mrs. Wagner would always welcome us, and we could always just eat whatever. Sometimes she had things baked, but usually we just raid the pantry, and maybe it was something simple like a sleeve of saltines or some Ritz or something, or sometimes there'd be like a big bag of potato chips, and we just devour them, you know. And it seemed like they're always glad to share. So that was kind of a house of plenty and hospitality for me as a youngster. And I'm sure it made me less stingy. I'd like to say it made me generous, but it made me less stingy than I would have been without it. So anyway, 90 years old for Alice. So happy birthday. Thanks for all the hospitality over the years. Hey. Can I share the Bethlehem stuff with you again? So the sales are going well, but we did get a lot more stuff maybe than in previous years. So we are trying to move the merchandise we got from Bethlehem, especially some of the things we got from a gift shop there that's struggling. It's hard in the West Bank to succeed economically. It's tourism starting to pick up there, but we started to support them a couple of years ago in COVID, and we're still trying to do it. So, but this large community, it's people with intellectual disabilities working alongside people without those disabilities, and forming community, and to sustain themselves, they make these crafts. And they do other things too. They make retreats. They go up to the Sea of Galilee once a year and have a little retreat time, and they have dances and things like that. And I volunteered there when I was on sabbatical once a week for about 3 hours a pop, and I'd help make these crafts. So the classic item, which I think maybe we saturated the market on these, because we're not selling too many this year, but we sold them the last couple of years. So I get it that a lot of people already bought them. So, but aren't these cool? This is a nativity set. It's made out of wool. Everything in here is made out of wool, except maybe that yellow star. I think that might be wool too, but it's just, it's made with love by all kinds of people, and it's just a beautiful simplicity to it. So this is the medium size, right? It's about as big as my hand. They got a smaller size and we got a larger size. So that's cool. Pretty unique gift. You're not going to find those anywhere else. I think this is really cool. I'm gonna, if these don't sell, I'm gonna have to get one, I guess. But I would like. It's a wall hanging, but it's those sheep. It's the Mary and Joseph, and on the back there's some, you put a stick through there so you can kind of hang it on a wall. Isn't that gorgeous? You got a few things like that. We sold a couple of these initially. These are baby slippers, everybody. It's slippers for a newborn. So it could be perfect for you. It's made out of the Bethlehem wool. And the wool, is from sheep around Bethlehem. So, this place is just like a mile from Shepherd's Fields, where we commemorate the shepherds out in the field the night Christ was born. So the sheep obviously are direct descendants of the sheep that were around Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus. We got several of these things. They're we got different sizes too, so it's a quality deal. It's got a nice zipper, and this is a kind of a leather thing with inside, and and this is the key. Whoa, wait a minute. On the end of the zipper, there's a little sheep, right? So that's cool. Got a bunch of those. And then here's the smaller size nativity. So smaller than my hand, right? But gorgeous, right? Very simple, very beautiful, very dignified. Now we'll flip over to something got from another shop. Just it's a couple more things. We got a bunch of these. I wish I hadn't ordered them, but I'm sure for someone it's going to be it's like kind of like a stein. It's like big. I thought I was ordering coffee mugs, but this thing came. I was like big, and they weren't exactly the cheapest. So we're hoping we can move them. But so it could be like for a stein, but it's also something that could be a planter, paintbrushes. If you're an artist, my mom would have loved one of these when she was in her painting years to put her brushes, I bet. And then we have a lot of these left too. We thought these might sell, but not so much. Olive wood. So olive wood's kind of a very special commodity over there. Got some salad tongs. Got I don't know what, it's like different kitchen utensils are different sizes. I have a couple of these from previous years. Use them a lot, like them a lot. And we got a few of these ladle rests made out of a carved chunk of olive wood. So pretty unique, pretty beautiful, from the Holy Land. All right, again, I don't mean to be it's kind of interesting to see the stuff that comes from over there in Bethlehem, isn't it? I hope so. I don't mean to just be pressing people to buy stuff, but we do. It really goes to such a good cause, so we hope we can move them. Thanks, Gail and Sharon, for monitoring all this stuff for us. Hey, okay, I got a bunch of parish news and a few other thoughts. A little quote from Pope Francis, a little bit of school mass. Let's cover the parish news first, shall we? I don't think we nailed it down yet, but a photo directory is coming. We're going to sit down Christine's very good about keeping us on task. Like we're about due for another photo directory of the parish. Parish life, you get used to seeing kind of the same people, and you think, well, but parish life is very dynamic. Like every 3 years, there's just a lot of, some people move, some people come in, and so it looks like we're trying to set up right after the New Year. We were talking about it, and some people said, well, we did it last time in the summer. Maybe after Christmas is good, because everybody's looking good because they got their Christmas haircuts and they had their family Christmas pictures for cards and things like that, if they did that. And then Beth said, yeah, and anyone with college students, they're home maybe on semester break, possibly. So that'd be a good time for families to be together. So watch for that. There's nothing to announce definitively right now, but it looks like in the new year. And because it's a new company, they have this thing where if you had your old photo in the previous directory, you didn't sit for a new photo, they just include the other one from the previous. Then they're not going to do that this year because it's a whole new company. So I was kind of bummed to hear about that. So if you're like me and you're graying, you'll get the current status of your gray hair. You can't just rely on your 3-year-old picture to give the illusion of youth. So, let's see. Tomorrow is Thursday, and it's our first Mass of the day will be only at Dove Healthcare Center. So they're welcoming the community back after COVID and some limitations on who could visit, who couldn't. And so I think it's going to be a real good thing. Hope it catches on again. In its heyday, we were getting, I think maybe something like 25 residents and 25 people from the community would come. So a good 50. I think we counted once, we had over 60 people. And it's a nice Mass. Patrice will be with tomorrow. And we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. But the idea is to be in solidarity with our parishioners and other Catholics in town who don't get out to the churches but are in a healthcare center as their residents, and we can all be with them. Not just the priests coming in for Mass, but the community coming in for Mass to join them and being in solidarity with them. So, and they enjoy it, and we enjoy it. So, what's not to like about that? Quick reminder: Christmas Masses. If you didn't get your newsletter. So we're going to go at 4, 6, 8, midnight, and then the next day at 9. 4, 6, 8, midnight, the next day at 9. It's not ideal. We were kind of hoping to have one earlier. The diocese asked us not to have anything before 4. So that's what we're doing. I'm not sure that... Well, anyway, we'll see how it goes, right? It's Christmas. It'll be good. Hey, we got some award winners in our parish. So... Caitlin Adams, formerly Caitlin Huntsley, won the Sunshine Award. I think it's one of the TV stations. Someone nominates you for something, and for just being such a kind, loving, bright presence. She was a special ed teacher. I forget where, Eau Claire, Altoona areas, one of those. And she's always with us for Eucharist, and her husband Tommy came into the church a couple of years ago, and just really a nice. Had baptized her child. Anyway, so the real strong part of St. James, and she won the Sunshine Award, recognizing her beautiful service to people with special needs, our youth in schools. And so that's great. And then there's Jefferson Award, which is like a citywide thing, I think, that recognizes outstanding service. Patty Holben won that a while ago, and Jim Novotny won that award real recently, like last month. I know he's a communion minister and hospitality minister at right across the lake here at the Mayo Hospital, and I think that's probably what he won it for. But who knows? It's just great, and he's a reader at church, and good man. So it's great to see these things acknowledged. We don't do those. We don't do our service so that we get rewarded, but it's nice. We encourage one another with that, and. Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes, like, at church stuff, maybe we just sort of, acknowledge people that serve the parish, like thanks BCCW for the, donation to the parish, or for doing this, or for people that serve Mass and read, and our ushers, and teach CCD, and it's all very important, and we need that, and that's why we acknowledge it and encourage it. But it's also, obviously, I hope, just really awesome when people take their gifts and their talents and they come in to worship with us, and then they go out and they're like light for the world, and they do a lot of great stuff, whether in their professions or as volunteers. That's what it's all about. It's a little phrase, they call it Eucharist without walls. It's like being the body of Christ out in the world. So congratulations to Caitlin and Jim. And to everybody out there that does great stuff, that doesn't get acknowledged. I hope you feel... There's a great prayer, I don't know if it's in the funeral rite, but I often will quote it when I'm doing intercessory prayers at Mass, that we pray for people out there that are doing good, that they may have the reward of their goodness. So I hope everybody out there doing good has the reward of your goodness, that you feel the consolation of God, which I might get to in a little bit as well. Hey, a neat thing, Kelly is always looking for ways to, really to bring the good news to our youth. And she's our DRE and works with Beth a lot. And she started an Advent reflection series just for 4 weeks on a Sunday night, and invited everyone from 16 to 19 years old to come And 3 people came, and she was delighted to be with those 3 people. So maybe a little nudge. I guess it was a great night. So Lily thought it was fantastic, and Isaac, and I guess and Brittany, and I guess it was really great. And Kelly was so happy to be able to facilitate that. She's a mother of people, daughters and a son who kind of went through that, and wanted to be able to offer to something faithfully enriching to our post-confirmation students. So that'll go on the following 3 Sundays as well. So if you're in that category, 16 to 19, and only if you want to be there. She said that's what was so awesome about it, that these 3 youth that came really wanted to be there and kind of dig into these spiritual issues and pray a little bit, and that's why I said the anointing mass was so great, because everybody wants to be there, for sure, and are hungry for something. That was her experience with these youth. So hey, I think it'd be great if you know anybody that age group that might want to be there, let them know. Let's see, collection. So we've been having these debates. So when COVID started, we started not taking a collection, just because touching money and germs. And cut myself shaving there, I guess. Well, we were making budget. Part of it, our expenses went down during COVID and stuff. But a lot of people, switched from kind of tossing money in the collection to mailing in contributions or direct deposit from their checking accounts, and that's really great. I remember hearing reading an article in U.S. Catholic way back. I think maybe before I was in the seminary in the 80s. It was a Bishop McManus from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he talked about an ideal parish where people support not the ideal parish, but an ideal way to run collections and money counting, where people would support the parish in ways that I mentioned, and then during Mass, there wouldn't be this whole collection time, but the gifts would be offered, and that might be more hospitable to guests. And I don't know. So anyway, I read that and I thought, yeah, that'd be great, but you'd never be able to do it. And and lo and behold, we kind of did it. And you can debate whether that's great or not. Maybe there's so anyway, so we had these 2 masses in Rourke Hall where we weren't upstairs and we didn't have the collection boxes near, because we do have collection boxes we hope people use if they bring cash to the mass or a check. They can slip it in those boxes. I don't know if everybody knows where they are, but there's the end of the pews going out of church, and there's one near the entrance by the piano, and one at that sort of halfway back entrance. There's a little box you can slip things into. But anyway, as you might imagine, the collection went up when we passed it around at Rourke Hall. So then we're thinking, well, should we bring the collection back, because it would net us perhaps something like $25,000 more a year based on those 2 weeks. Who knows? And it was a special weekend. We had the commemoration of the dead that weekend, so that might have contributed to the collection. But, and other people would say, so we're trying to do this pros and cons. And the Finance Council said, yeah, let's start taking a collection in January. But a couple people were missing, or one was. And then he had the opposite view. He thought, things are changing. People are doing direct deposit. We're encouraging that. And so I don't know if we want to go backwards. So I thought, well, it's also a pastoral issue. That got the Pastoral Council involved and got their feedback. And people are kind of split. It's just an interesting topic. I think the ones who wanted to resume the collection, one was just like, well, I think it'd be more income for the parish, kind of the obvious, and the second was good modeling. So a lot of these people bring their children to Mass, and to be able to model, like, we support the parish here by offering, the fruit of our labor, offering money. And I've always liked, except it takes longer. I always try to, believe it or not, I know I preach too long sometimes, but I like to not have Mass be real long. And, having the collection adds time, because you have to kind of wait for them to be gift. But I like when when the cash is offered with the bread and wine, because to me that's like fruit that represents you and your work, and that's being offered to God as well. But the cons were, well, some of the stuff I mentioned before, but a lot of it is just logistics. You know, we need to have bankers and money counters if we have more of a collection, and the logistics could just get a lot more complicated. And people we were having a hard time hanging on to our banker volunteers who have to take the collection to the bank and then retrieve it on Mondays for counting and all this. So anyway, we got a bunch of feedback, and then we had a joint meeting of the Finance Council and the Pastoral Council. It wasn't full, but I think it was a good representation. And as I was counting, based on their comments, they want a collection, they don't. It was like 4-4, But we just kind of kept talking, and not real long, though. It was a 35-minute meeting. And what we decided to do, it's all just stuff to try, was to, because in the old days, before COVID, I would say after the prayers of the faithful, I would say, now we'll take a collection for the needs of our parish, and the altar will be set for our Eucharist. I don't recognize those words, but it tends to be what I said every weekend. And so I think now I'll say something like, so we decided that the logistical concerns were serious enough that we would try to not take a collection, but we do want to hope people know where the boxes are. So I'll say something like, I didn't think it through fully yet, but now we're not taking a collection, by the pews, but we do have collection boxes by the exits if you'd like to make an offering on your way out of church, and the table will be set for our Eucharist. You'll try that. We're kind of, so we'll see how that goes. We were kind of putting it in the beginning, but a lot of people thought, well, like, hey, we welcome all our guests. Here's where the collection boxes are. Putting those two together, sometimes could just not sound exactly right, But putting it where it should be, maybe at the offertory, would be a good idea. So anyway, blah blah blah, right? But I like the way those council members kind of resolved that. We didn't have to vote, and there wasn't a winning side or a losing side. It just kind of this consensus just sort of formed. Hey, let's talk a little bit. It looks like I'm going to hit that 30-minute mark again. It's already 22:30. Sorry about that. But I like to add some things that are not just parish news, right? Let me quote Pope Francis from his Sunday address, his first words on Advent this year. In the season of Advent, let us be shaken out of our torpor, which I think means dullness of spirit or numbness, and let us awaken from slumber. Let's try to ask ourselves, am I aware of what I'm living? Am I alert? Am I awake? Do I try to recognize God's presence in daily situations? Or am I distracted and a little overwhelmed by things? If we are unaware of his coming today, we will also be unprepared when he arrives at the end of time. That little fervent speech he gave from the balcony at St. Peter's on Sunday. Stay awake, stay alert. My favorite prayer for this, I'll just kind of describe it briefly. I probably went more into detail in the past, but it's called the Examen. I really see people talking about it more, so I hope it's my favorite prayer. St. Ignatius Loyola said, if you only pray once a day, pray the Examen. It's a little bit like an examination of conscience, but not really. Examination of conscience, it's like you're trying to discover sins. In the Examen, you're open to that too, seeing where you've sinned, but also, where's God's grace been? Where should you be grateful? What were holy moments in your day? And you just kind of review your day, kind of look back. I start at night, and then I go back until the morning when I woke up, and I just think of all the people I was with, what I did, hard moments, stressful moments, joyful moments. I just kind of take it all in, and then I ask God, reveal to me sacred moments, where you were. If I were more alert, I would have, or maybe I was alert at the time, and I just remember them, and it's a joy. And then after kind of giving thanks for those moments, you ask, were there times when from birds over there, were there times when I resisted your grace? When my ego got the best of me and I sinned, or at least I could have done better, And in the spirit of curiosity, not in a spirit of, I'm so bad. It's more like, all right, that happens again tomorrow. I'll do it differently. I've learned, That's great. That's part of being alert. I think that prayer of the examine is about being alert to God and our ability to cooperate with God and our ability not to. Yeah. It's at the school mass today, and is Feast of St. Andrew. We have a bunch of feasts in December. I get so into Advent, and all of a sudden we got to stop and hit the brakes and celebrate St. Andrew. No offense against you, St. Andrew, but you know what I mean? So we talked a little bit about Advent, and then we talked about St. Andrew. Of course, he's St. Peter's brother, one of the fishermen. His symbol is the X because he died on a cross that was an X. I think probably like St. Peter, he didn't feel worthy to be crucified on a cross like Jesus, so he wanted it a little bit different. Anyway, the idea was that he called them. We talked about first century fishing nets and what they look like and all this, but it just occurs to me, one of the questions I ask our high school confirmation students if they've ever felt called by God, and some of them say yeah, to do something or to be helpful, or if I saw a student in trouble that I should help. I love that they say that. It makes me really happy that they feel called by God. But a lot of them don't. They have no idea. I think for them, being called by God was like if they actually heard something, like through their ears, and since they haven't, they say, well, no. And so I asked our school is just kindergartens were there today, kindergarten through 5th grade. I said, you guys, do you think God still calls us? And they said, yeah. Oh, good. And how do we hear God's call? I mean, Andrew heard Jesus call him because Jesus was standing right there, like I'm standing in front of you. But we don't have that anymore. We don't have Jesus walking around on earth to call us. How do we hear his call? And they were quick, They just said, well, in our heart. I said, it's a great answer. And then someone else said, in our minds. I said, yeah, that's good. And there were some other ones that were, little variations on that. But overall, I was just really pleased that they said yes, and that you could feel called. They believe in God. They believe in Jesus, and that God and Jesus want to communicate with us, and we can feel things in our hearts. We can imagine things in our minds that are from God. What a beautiful thing. So to get that straight, I didn't get into the whole thing about, well, how do you know? But it's always an interesting question, isn't it? How do you know that what I'm thinking about is from God? And part of it is if you know it's right and it's good, like to help my neighbor, shovel. Well, it's not the devil asking you to do that. It's like, right? So kind of on a simplicity level like that. Pope Francis has been talking a lot about discernment of spirits, like what is of God, what's not of God. Like he's a Jesuit, so one of the basics of Jesuit spirituality, Ignatian spirituality, is that we have these spirits kind of vying for our soul. It's the Holy Spirit trying to bring us closer into the heart of God, and we have the evil spirit that doesn't like that at all. It doesn't want us to be closer to God. It wants us to be farther from God, and so this is going on all the time. And so we have to discern when something comes in our minds, what's from God, what isn't from God, and and he talks about consolation. That's the buzzword for what's from God. God gives us spiritual consolation as a confirmation that it's really God's voice. So in a way, you could say it's kind of like a good feeling, but it's more like a deep peace, a rightness, spiritual joy. And that's instead of like a thrill or exhilaration or a high, Not that those things would necessarily rule out God, but so I feel like I had some good feelings today. Some were consolations and some weren't. So we had a lovely staff meeting today, and I felt really good to be with those people, ministering to the people of St. James. And, I just kind of sat at my desk afterwards, and it was just a good feeling, and I thought, this is confirmation that kind of we're on a right track here. Then, I had another good feeling today. I got home, and I thought, well, should I have a salad? I bought those potato chips yesterday. So I grabbed the potato chips and the low-fat sour cream and started chomping on that. And, that felt good too. But it wasn't it was more like a, this feels good. It wasn't like that deep peace, that consolation that comes from God. Anyway, I can go on with that maybe more later. But hey, it's just about 30 minutes. So let's wrap this up. I'll let you take in this scene a little bit in the Driftless region here. We make an Advent prayer. Loving God, in this cold day of winter, beginning of winter, we give you thanks and praise for our lives. And we never want to be unmindful of the great suffering in the world. Growing homeless population here in Eau Claire does not welcome this cold and this snow. People without food, people without electricity, Ukraine, the siege continues. This season of Advent, we dare to dream for peace, where swords are turned to plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. A place where the wolf can lie down with the lamb and the child play at the adder's lair. They're beautiful dreams. And Lord, we ask you to transform our hearts that we may live into those dreams, to make the world a better place. We might let go of our needs to be number one and over others or more right than others, but to help us be the presence of your love and your light. As sure as the child Jesus grew in the womb of his mother Mary, so may Christ grow in our hearts, that we may be more like him and live like him. Blessed Advent, everybody.